Here is your fully edited script with the requested changes. Main character, formerly Hannah. Aaliyah man, Daniel. Darius little girl, Lily. Amaya city/apartment details lightly adjusted to keep the vibe but feel fresh. YouTube channel, Gentle Grove. Every single mention of Kindness Corner replaced. Everything else, dialogue, pacing, emotions, structure, kept 100% identical. It was the coldest night of winter when Aaliyah's life quietly shifted in a way she never saw coming. Snow blanketed the city like a heavy silence, muffling the sounds of traffic and life outside her brick row house apartment in the historic district. She had just returned from a long, exhausting shift at the marketing agency where she worked as a senior coordinator, overworked, underpaid, and buried under the weight of deadlines she didn't create but always had to meet. She was fumbling with her keys, her mind clouded with stress and fatigue when she noticed them huddled by the doorstep next to hers. A man maybe in his early 30s holding a small blonde girl no older than 4. The man's hair was wet with snow, his gray sweater clinging to his frame, and his eyes held a quiet desperation. He looked up at her, not asking for anything, just silently bracing against a cold as he wrapped his arms tighter around the sleeping child in his lap. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in doing the right thing, even when it's inconvenient, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Gentle Grove. Your support helps keep these stories alive and spreading light in the world. Aaliyah hesitated only for a second. She had always told herself she wasn't the type to get involved, especially not in strangers' business. But something in the little girl's flushed cheeks, her tiny boots dusted with snow, and the way the man was clearly trying to shield her with his own body, it all pierced through Aaliyah's exhaustion. Without thinking too hard about consequences, she simply said, "You can come in just for a bit. Warm up." The man didn't say much. He looked surprised, almost uncertain, before nodding and carrying the little girl inside with quiet gratitude. Aaliyah gave them space, letting the man sit by the heater while she grabbed a towel and poured some hot chocolate. He looked like someone who hadn't asked for help in a long time. His name, she would later learn, was Darius, and the girl, sweet and sleepy, was Amaya. That night changed something in her. She didn't mean to let them stay longer than a few hours, but the storm worsened. Trains shut down, roads iced over, and when morning came, Amaya had a slight fever, and Darius looked like he hadn't slept in days. Against her usual instincts, Aaliyah offered them breakfast, then a blanket for a nap, then just one more night, and soon just one night turned into 3. She learned bits and pieces about them over coffee and quiet meals. Darius was a widower. His wife had passed away 2 years ago in a tragic car accident, leaving him alone with a 6-month-old daughter. Since then, he'd been trying to rebuild. He'd moved cities, left behind his tech startup, and had been applying for work nonstop. They'd been staying in cheap motels, eating out of vending machines, and barely making it day to day. Darius was bright, kind, articulate, and clearly trying so hard not to let the weight of the world crush him. It didn't make sense to Aaliyah why a man like him would be so down on his luck. He seemed too intelligent, too responsible, too good. But life wasn't fair, and she knew that better than anyone. Aaliyah had grown up watching her own single mom scrape together rent while working 2 jobs. She'd always carried that invisible pressure with her. Be independent. Don't ask for help. Never let anyone see you break. Maybe that's why she was so quick to offer Darius shelter. Maybe deep down she saw herself in Amaya and her mother in the quiet strength Darius carried in silence. 3 days turned to 4. Amaya's fever passed. Darius offered to fix her broken sink as thanks. Then he helped reorganize her tiny storage closet. He read bedtime stories to Amaya on her couch while Aaliyah quietly worked nearby, feeling oddly comforted by the soft hum of domesticity she hadn't realized she missed. Something began to grow in that small space. It wasn't romance, at least not yet, but it was something gentler, more grounding, a shared understanding. 2 souls caught in the same storm, finding momentary shelter in each other's presence. But everything shifted on Monday morning. Aaliyah had an important meeting that day. The agency had been acquired by a new parent company, and the entire team was to be introduced to the new CEO during an in-person session. She rushed into work, still thinking about whether she should offer Darius a little cash for groceries, or maybe help him find a short-term rental. But the moment the conference room doors opened and the new CEO walked in, every thought dissolved from her mind. It was Darius in a tailored black suit, hair neatly styled, Amaya nowhere in sight. He looked like a completely different man. The entire room stood in silent shock as he confidently approached the front, greeted the board, and began his presentation. Aaliyah sat frozen, her breath caught in her chest. What was happening? How was this possible? Darius, no, Mr. Daniels, as he introduced himself, was apparently a former tech executive who had recently acquired the agency under a new corporate initiative. His speech was elegant, decisive, and full of vision. He talked about restructuring, about company culture, and about the need for empathy-driven leadership in a post-pandemic world. Aaliyah stared at him, struggling to reconcile the man in front of her with the one who had been making mac and cheese in her kitchen the night before. After the meeting, their eyes met in the hallway. He looked at her with the same soft gratitude, the same quiet strength, but now with something else, a hint of apology, an awareness of what this might mean. He asked to speak with her privately, and in that small glass-walled office, he explained everything. He hadn't meant to deceive her. In fact, he had deliberately avoided telling her his background because he needed to know what it felt like to receive kindness without status, without money, without power. After losing his wife and nearly losing himself, he'd spent months undercover in his own world, wanting to see who people truly were. Aaliyah had been the first person in a long time to offer him anything without expecting something back. He offered her a promotion that day, not out of pity, but because he had seen her dedication, her heart, and her ability to lead, even under pressure. But Aaliyah was overwhelmed. She didn't know if she was angry or confused, grateful or hurt. She just needed time. Over the next few weeks, she distanced herself. She kept things professional, nodding in meetings, avoiding personal conversations. But Darius respected her space. He didn't push. He continued his work quietly, and Aaliyah couldn't help but notice how his leadership changed the company. He implemented flexible hours, increased wages, added mental health resources, and listened to everyone from interns to senior staff with the same humility she had seen when he sat on her doorstep in the snow. And slowly, something in her softened. She began talking to Amaya again, visiting her after hours, sharing little meals and gentle laughter. Eventually, Aaliyah allowed herself to feel again, to believe in second chances, not just for others, but for herself. Because Darius may have walked into her life needing shelter. But somewhere along the way, she realized she had needed it too. She had needed a reminder that the world still held good men. That kindness didn't go unnoticed. That sometimes the most extraordinary people arrive in the most ordinary moments. By spring, Aaliyah and Darius were no longer just coworkers. They were building something deeper, something rooted in truth, in shared history, and in the quiet strength of two people who had both known loss, but never gave up on life. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love, kindness, and second chances are real, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Gentle Grove. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. Speech Balloon's special request. Before you go, please leave a comment. Have you ever helped someone without knowing who they really were? Or has someone ever helped you when you needed it most? We'd love to hear your story.